No, that's okay. The guy's in a great jacket. Come back. Sitting here and she said something about it.
Good evening. Good evening. Some of you even know who I am. And for those one or two who don't, ask your neighbor. So, I'm Ross Tartell, I'm president of the chapter, and I want to welcome you to this evening. We have a really strong program for this evening, and I'm really looking forward to it. To our friends who are watching the simulcast, I want to welcome you all, and I want to say a special thank you to Discover Video. We've got James Shortus and we've got Tony from Discover Video, because they take care of us. They not only simulcast, but they also host the archived broadcasts. So we're one of the few chapters, one of the few ATD chapters in the United States that does this type of simulcast and archiving. So a special thank you to our Discover Video. A couple of things on networking guidelines. Many of you have heard me say this before, but it's all about friends. You start with your friends, and then you start with your business. If you start with your business before you make friends, it's not nearly as good, and it changes the culture of who we are and how we want to work together. So start with friends, start with relationships, and then work from there. Since this is a meeting and we are a learning and development organization, you know we have to do the basics. How do you escape? And how do you take care of those primary drives? Again, if you don't know how to escape, ask your neighbor, because many of us have been here many times before. And if you want to divulge what the primary drives are, they'll tell you where to go. So it's okay. We've got a couple of things that we just need to cover quickly. One is, I believe on your seats may be something about the Northeast ATD conference that's coming up in April 1. No, that's for the next meeting. On April 1 in Massachusetts, there's the Northeast ATD conference. I'm one of the presenters, so I'm invested in having you there. Another member of the chapter, Donna Volpita, was also presenting. It should be a fabulous conference. It's intimate, it's close. There's about 300 people, some great sponsors to the conference, and it's really enjoyable. There's another conference that's really important that's coming up that I'm not going to talk about, but Randy Chase just might talk about, because he knows that conference as co-chair far better than I.
Hi, thank you. I'm Randy Chase. I'm the State Director of SHRM here in Connecticut. On May 2 through 4, we're having the TriState, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut SHRM Conference, which we do every other year. It's going to be in Newport, Rhode Island on Goat Island. It's going to have 6 tracks this year. We're all welcome. I hope to see you up there. We have Dave Ulrich, who's going to close the conference on Wednesday. And we have the Senior Vice President from Mohegan's Son, who's going to kick it off. But hope to see everybody there.
I worked as part of the program committee for this conference 2 years ago, and it's a very strong conference. And it is separated by several weeks, so you can actually make it to both the ATD conference and the SHRM conference, and both are really worth the price of admission. We also have coming up at our next meeting on April 18th, if you are interested in Arctic exploration, Mac McFadden is fabulous. And what he will talk about, other than his work as an Arctic explorer, is to really help you understand the dynamics of teams, how to push teams to really exceed their capabilities, and give you tools and techniques that will take your ideas to places they haven't ever been before. And you'll be able to take those ideas and those tools and bring them back home, either with your clients or with your customers. So if you are part and parcel of trying to make a difference in your organizations, Matt McFadden will help you be able to do that. So on a couple of other things, and then I'm going to pass it over to either Mary Beth or Laura. We have a strategic relationship. Part of our mission is building the networks, helping you find out about the best practices, and building your skills in order to be fabulous. And part of that is through the relationships we have. So we've talked about SHRM. We also have a strategic relationship with the International Coach Federation. And April 7th, we have a networking meeting at Reeve Bistro. That will be incredible. It's got a beautiful view. It's got great food. It's going to be a really good time. And it's all about making friends, making networks, making business happen, learning about stuff. ICF also has a meeting on March 25th at 8:30, and so if you just go to their website, you'll learn much more about it. It's the 7 keys to social media success with Bill DeRosa. So that is another way that we connect with you to help you drive your business and develop your knowledge and skills. So Mary Beth, I'm going to switch it over to you so that you can talk about new members and what's up.
Great, thank you, Ross. Welcome, everyone, and we have a very nice way of welcoming new members to our chapter by inviting them to stand up and say a couple of words about themselves and what they do, and to recognize them. So I would like to invite anyone who is a new member tonight to introduce yourself. Any new members? All right, well, welcome all, and on to the next. So what we're doing next is a call for volunteers. So in order to keep this chapter alive and vibrant, we're always looking for new folks to get involved on our board, with our board. And so there are a number of volunteer opportunities in a wide array of what we do, from getting sponsors to supporting members. Martha back there is holding up the volunteer opportunities. So if you are interested in getting involved, please pick up one of those, and the contact information for those of us who run the various parts of our chapter are on there, and we're happy to talk to you about getting involved. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Martha, who will talk about the other resources on the resource table.
Thank you. So welcome, everyone. Our resource table has 2 purposes. One is to provide information about ATD, Association for Talent Development, on the local and on the national level. So I wanted to highlight that we have some literature about power membership. That means that you get more than twice the benefit when you're a local member and when you're a national member. So we encourage you to take a look at that. We also have some copies of Training and Develop magazine. It's one of the many benefits you get from national membership. The other part of the resource table because we will not be able to keep track of it for you. I'm also going to point out one of my favorite aspects. Our own Ross Tartell has a terrific column several times a year in Training Magazine. We have some samples here. So that's everything.
It's wonderful being president. So, I do have a serious message, and that is, as president, for some of you who were here at last month's meeting, we were talking about succession planning. In June is the end of my term as president of this chapter of ATD. So that means that during this spring, we also look for members who will be joining us on the board, or people who will want to volunteer. This is a fabulous way to build your network, to build your skills, to make a difference in your profession. And those of us who are on the board, either here or in SHRM or any other professional organization, can certainly attest to that. So if you have interest, please talk to Mary Beth, come to me, come to any member of the board, and come talk to us and see what you might want to do, what you might like to do. We can, if it's just a volunteer thing, we can structure that so that you can make a difference and do it within the time frames that you have available. If you want to make a little more of a commitment and do something that you can put on your LinkedIn and help your share of voice and presence in your market, let us know, because we're happy to have people join the board. All we ask is that you have fun, be competent, and have a working brain. The last one is most important. Working brains are the best criteria. On that note, speaking of working brains, I'm going to hand it over to Lynne Rodney, who's going to introduce someone who has just been special in my professional career. And he'll introduce our David Gilman, who is our sponsor for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Lynne Rodney here, and I am the charge of sponsor. If anybody wants to be a sponsor sometime, please give me a call. But I would like to introduce David Gilman now. He has been a member of ATD for many years, and he's been a loyal and helping member, and I will turn it over to David. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Lane. Appreciate it. And good to see everybody. And for those that I'm meeting for the first time, as well as those that I know, just a little background. I am pleasured to sponsor for the chapter. I got involved with the chapter when actually I was in my early 20s. So it's been 20 plus years, and it's nice to be a good friend of the chapter going forward. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the work that we do and some highlights of some special programs and things that we've been hitting in that way. So again, I've actually started going to consulting when I was in my mid-20s, which was a lot of fun. And I'm mentioning that because it was fun being internal and doing consulting on vacation days with approval of the department head and everything. We have a team of a number of consultants that have a great background as former managers of learning, development, HR from a variety of companies like you're seeing up on the screen. We are pleased to have over 200 repeat clients. And it's nice to have repeat clients, and some of them have been with us for 15 plus years. And that's a nice hallmark of very satisfied customers that way. Some of the areas that we focus on is sales training, including for one client having done 6 consecutive national sales meetings, ranging from Cancun to Hawaii to Atlantis, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm mentioning that because when they bring you back for 6 consecutive times to run a national sales meeting, again, it's the hallmark of how we vary things also in that way. We do a lot of work in leadership, training, professional skills development with over 40 different programs and services that we provide. As an example of one thing that's happening right now, we're doing the top 80 leaders for an organization, and the 80s are divided into 4 cohorts. They selected us for a variety of different programs over 15 months, and we incorporated an interpersonal style program survey with a 360 customized feedback survey with them, instead of people having to go back and take 2 surveys at once, as an example. And the capstone action learning project is tied into their engagement survey results. So it's nice to get them actively engaged in the engagement survey. As I mentioned a lot in the area of sales and customer service, I'll share one brief example of a 2015 one that we did with audio breakouts. And this is, to me, an underutilized tool and technique that is occurring very often, whether it's WebEx for training, some of the Adobes, links, et cetera, and a global sales team wanted to focus on securing new clients. So we actually put together a highly customized program about the sales process, their emails that they should be using, as well as their voicemails, and how to participate in the calls. We did it all virtually using audio breakout rooms. which was really fun, saying these 3 people go to this audio room, these 3 to this audio room, almost like in a regular classroom, having people in the corners of the room in trios practicing, and I as the facilitator can bounce back and forth between each of the audio breakouts in order to listen in and give feedback real time. So underutilized them. Variety of half-day programs, so 2 full days. You have information about this on your seats and in the back of the room for us. Our programs are easy for internal delivery and licensing and for consultants to use as well. And we did a very large social learning project. It was 6 study groups, as they call it. We used Connect, Cornerstone Connect for this particular one. 8 weeks, 50 participants, 6 cohorts, 2 webinars, front end, back end, and in between, what we had them do is watch videos, review case studies, and do group discussions, and we as facilitators came in on some of them and introduced peer coaching because they want to have more of a coaching culture amongst each other as well. We do a lot in Your Best meetings, and in particular team-based as well as charity-based team building events. We have over 40 different team activities. We've been asked by one particular Connecticut firm at the end of June to do a program with 40 participants breakouts for around agility and to come up with team activities strictly around agility as an example. So with that, I just want to thank you. We have a variety of things on our website having to do with web applications. We do survey processing. We've done 3 engagement surveys in the first quarter already. Pre-post analysis, which I'm a big believer in the surveys. Over 100 customized surveys based on companies' competencies. We actually have a reinforcement and evaluation web program after training and interviewing that automates interview guides based on 60 competencies, 600 behavioral-based questions that prints out interview guides as Word docs to be shared anywhere with the firm. And with that, I want to thank you very much and leave you with my standard toast. Our mission, I believe, my company and all of you, is to help others be more successful. Cheers.
Thank you. So let me just pass it on to Steve, because that's the easiest thing to do at this point.
Thanks, Ross. It's my honor to introduce our special speakers this evening. First, from well, I call it Tri-Simulations, but it's Tri-Corporations. I've known Carlo Peratoner for longer than either one of us want to remember. I spent 17 years at Champion International, running leadership programs there. And almost at the very outset, Tom Conine and Carlo and his team came in and put on exceptional, and I really mean unique, distinctive simulations. A lot of us in our careers have probably participated in business simulations. We're used to getting into small rooms and breaking out with a team, looking at a computer screen and making a lot of decisions to run a business. What made them so unique at the time was not only were you playing with a computer, but down in a war room, down the end of the hall at a conference center, they had a team of experts who would role play with you either in the flesh or over the phone. They play various parts. So if you're trying to run a business and you needed cash, you could call an investment banker. If you needed somebody who could put together a marketing campaign, you could call somebody from an advertising firm. It was very cleverly done, very engaging. So much so, we had a lot of great work with them at Champion International. When I moved on to Purdue Pharma, the same rave reviews came from our senior leaders and our middle managers. It's a real pleasure that Carlo is going to be with us to talk about their up-to-date simulations. But what gives us a double pleasure is it's always nice, we know, when we have a session like this, that when we have somebody from the outside, a consulting group or a training organization, it's nice if they can partner with one of their existing clients. And so with us tonight is the Director of Talent Management, Lynne from CA Technologies, who is going to be gracious enough to co-present with Carlo this evening. The other thing about, you should know that she has recently been a featured speaker at the National ATD Conference. She comes from Long Island, otherwise I'd invite her to every monthly meeting here. So thanks very much, we look forward to a great show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dee. So it's a pleasure to be here with all of you tonight, and it was a beautiful ride over on the ferry. Thank goodness the snow melted before I had to get on the ferry, but it was a beautiful sunny day. So thank you all for coming out to hear me talk for a little bit and to get to hear about the great work that we're doing with Carlo. So I work at CA Technologies. We are a software technology company. We're headquartered in New York City, and we have a large facility on Long Island, which is where I work in Islandia. We started to partner with Carlo, I guess, about 3 years ago, and we wanted to. I'll talk in a minute about why, but we wanted to put a business simulation into our leadership development program. So I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what our leadership development program looks like today. Our leadership development program is built on our corporate competencies, which are leading yourself, leading the organization, and leading through others. And so all of the content that goes into the leadership development program is based on those competencies. We also have an array of, this is a 12-month experience that our participants go through. And it's a blended learning experience, so there's in-person sessions, there's virtual sessions, there's e-learning, there's reading, there's peer groups, you name it, it's all in there. Everything in the kitchen sink, basically. But a couple years ago, we got our senior leaders, our executives on our team, to get involved in helping us to design and deliver the leadership development program. So all of the virtual sessions that you see represented here are delivered by people on our executive team, including our CEO, our Chief Financial Officer, our Chief Marketing Officer, our Chief Strategy Officer, our Chief Product Officer. So it really helps to connect the participants. But one thing that we wanted to incorporate in here was building business acumen. And so that's how we got connected with Tri Corporation. So pilots, military personnel, first responders, they all use simulations to help prepare them for the real world. And so in order for us to ready our leaders or our leadership development participants for the real business world, that's why we wanted to add a business simulation into our leadership development program to help them make some business decisions regarding strategy, key performance indicators, company growth, and business initiatives. So this is going to be the third year that we're partnering with Tri for the business simulation. So you might say, well, why did you want to do that? Why was it so important that you add a business simulation into your leadership development program? Well, our employee opinion survey revealed that our employees wanted to know more about our company's strategy. And so how are we going to do that? And also our senior leaders agreed that it was important for our employees to understand business acumen so that they could help to move our company forward. In fact, our CEO, Mike Gregoire, has stressed since he's been at our company now 3 years that it's critical for our employees to understand our business so that they can help our business grow. And to add on to that, there's a lot of external research that is really, it drives home the point that, business simulations are key in building the capabilities of future leaders. And these capabilities are needed for superior strategy execution. So in 2013, Corporate Executive Board published a report. It's called the Developing Senior Leaders for the New Work Environment. And in this report, it showed that 80% of senior leaders are motivated to learn in a typical leadership development program. However, only 48% of them are actually motivated to apply it back on the job. But the percentage of senior leaders who effectively demonstrate leadership competencies improves to 90% when they have a high level of adaptive application. And one way to provide that opportunity for adaptive application is through a business simulation. And that's what led us to Carlo. So when we took a look at the employee opinion survey results, and we took a look at what we were hearing from our senior leaders, as well as this external research, it clearly showed that we needed to increase our business acumen across our leadership population. So that's, our senior leaders agreed that adding a business simulation made sense for where we are today, and that our leadership development program was the right platform to introduce that simulation. So that's how we got together with Carlo. So going back to what our leadership development program looks like. We chose Tri Corporation because they're the experts in designing and developing state-of-the-art business simulations and experiential learning programs. And we initially thought, hey, we can do this ourselves, but we quickly learned that you needed an expert to really give you what you needed. So they also have partnered with many other global leading market organizations, Microsoft, Adobe, HP, and now CA, I'll say. But to help the participants prepare for the simulation experience, we host a little call with them so that they understand what it's going to be like. We provide them with a business case overview so that they can get a background of the company that they're going to be working with. And what Tri Corporation did, they partnered with us to create this fictitious company called Compass Software. And it's amazing how similar this company looks like CA, but it is a software technology company, and it has 3 divisions, just like we do at CA, license, services, and cloud. And Carlo's going to talk to you a little bit more about that. But it really does help for the participants to understand that what they're going through really mirrors what they experience every day. So having that fictitious company look and feel similar to what they experience also helps with them being able to go apply back on the job, when they are finished going through the simulation. So the simulation is built into one of the in-person sessions in our leadership development program. It's a day-and-a-half simulation, and it comes in our second in-person session there. So it became so popular over the last couple of years. Like I said, this is the 3rd year that we're going to be having it. We've expanded it now. Our leadership development program has about 1,700 alumni that have gone through the program since we started it in 2008. And this year we have 770 people going through our leadership development program. But since we've only done it, for the last 2 years, people that have went through the program several years ago are saying, hey, what about me? Like, they hear all this great buzz about this business simulation, they want to go through it. So this is sort of a picture of a marketing email that we send out to the alumni now. And now what we've done is partner with Carlo to create a 1-day experience just for alumni so that they can come outside of the 12-month leadership development program. They've already gone through all of that, but they really want to take part in this business simulation experience. So we started to offer that just last year. So we've gotten such great feedback from the participants. You can read for yourself some of the testimonials that have come in from our participants. But it's, as soon as people get in the door on day 1 of this 12-month experience, they want to know, when does the business simulation start? Because they've heard so many great things about it. And we've had so many people get aha moments from going through the simulation. So I know Carlo's going to take you through now the next part of the presentation. And I'll be around if anyone has any questions and you want to ask about our journey. I'm happy to answer those for you.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying your dinner. So, special thanks to all of you to take time out of your day or your evening to come and listen to me and Lynne talk. Thanks for Steve for inviting us here. So, very much appreciate the opportunity. Maybe just a little bit of background about our company and our team. We like to think that we build great leaders, and our sweet spot is probably director level populations and up in organizations, although we do some early career programs, but the bulk of the programs we do is middle level and up. And my team, who I report to, because they don't report to me, I report to them, some of them are here, and I'd like a few of them just to stand up and introduce themselves. We have Mario Di Fiore. Mario, say a few words.
So I've worked with Carlo for a bit. We do these simulations that actually are enormously engaging. to the folks that we've been presenting these to. We get some fabulous feedback that certainly comes back. In the way background, just very quickly, I've been working with Carlo, but in fact I'm a dean at Fordham University and a professor there of finance as well.
And Jerry Mattia?
So I won't say how long I've been working with Tri, because then you have to guess my age, right? But anyway, I've been actually an employee of Tri since 2013, but have been working with Tri for well over 25 more years. So with Tom Conine and the rest of the team. So I have my own business in leadership and team development, and it was a great way to combine interaction with some of the modules that we teach in leadership development. And that's what my customers were asking for, and Tri's customers were asking for more leadership. So we just combined the two, and it's a great package. We're going to give you some of that experience shortly.
Thanks. We refer to Jerry as Jerry number 1 because we have Jerry number 2 here. Jerry, would you like to say a few words?
I will. I joined later than Jerry over here, so since I'm Jerry number 2. Anyway, the irony with my relationship with TriCorp is that at one point in time in my career, I needed some expert faculty. They came from Fairfield University. It's Tom's partner. So you could say, once upon a time, they worked for me. But now, and then we developed that relationship, and now I work with them, and it's just been a great run. Not as long as Jerry's, but it's been a great run.
Thanks, Jerry. And finally, Sarah Beard, one of our newest members of our team. So, Sarah.
Hi, thanks, Carlo. My name is Sarah Beard. I've been working with Tri Corporation since 2011. And in the beginning, there was a comment made about relationships. I originally met Tom Conine back in about 2000 when I was on a leadership development program at GE in finance. And however many years later it is now, I'm now working for Tri Corporation on this
Thanks,
end.
Sarah. And you'll find that you meet our team. Most of the members of our team were actually former customers at one point, including myself. So years and years ago, I won't tell you how many years ago, because that's a long time.
Does that mean I'm going to work for Tri?
We could not have that conversation now, but maybe at some time in the future. Okay, so leaders teaching leaders, and I think that one thing that you'll notice is most of us have a little bit of gray hair, which kind of indicates that we've had a little bit of seasoned experience. We have some academics like Mario, my business partner Tom, who teaches at Fairfield University, who happens to be in Miami right now, and of course we're very jealous of the fact that he's enjoying some nice weather down there. We work at all sorts of different kinds of businesses, from old line manufacturing companies like GE, to financial services like Bank of America, to software companies like CA Technologies. So, and again, typically middle level and up. And we have a lot of global experience. So I would tell you that I probably travel more than anybody else in the company, 48 weeks a year, but we do have people who are 30 plus weeks a year traveling internationally. I've been on many, many programs with Jerry where she's had medical emergencies, breaking her foot, those kinds of things. So we've had some interesting experiences. Now, our process when we work with clients, and I specifically wanted to bring this up because this was really an important part of the interaction with CA Technologies. The way we met CA Technologies was like at a forum like this. I was co-presenting with one of our other clients, a company called Synopsys in the Bay Area, where we've done programs with. And Tracy Dodd, and were you there? I was there. So it was Tracy and Lynne, and they heard us speak, and they were intrigued, and so the conversation started. And we signed our contracts in August of 13. And we started to have the conversations with leaders and subject matter experts. We did our design and customization, and the first week of November of 13, we did our pilot session. Okay? We found that we needed to tune things up. Not everything was perfect. We had about a month to tune it up because at the end of the pilot session, they told us we have 15 programs in 5 weeks globally. Okay? We're a very small consulting company. I've got about 20 people on staff at any instant in time. So it was a pretty pressured sort of situation, but we were able to find staff to deliver all the programs. India, Singapore, Australia, Japan, China, the US, the UK. Did I miss any other places?
Brazil.
Latin America, Brazil. So, so we had programs everywhere. And after each program, we would come back and we would kind of refine the content. This worked really well, let's adjust this. This didn't work very well, we're going to adjust this. And in particular, what ended up happening is in the regions that happened. So some of the deliveries in the regions were a little bit different because we had to adjust to the local situation. So we did move into production, and we're in our third year with them. And I just called Lynne, last week before last, 2 weeks ago, and I told her we need to refresh, right? Because their company has evolved, and the simulation needs to be evolved to be current with them. So this is part of what we do, and we have this agile development cycle. We started early this time, so I'm going to have a lot of time to put in all the things that we want to do, but we are adjusting the content along the way, and often that's done pro bono, right? For us at Tri, certainly getting the paycheck is a good thing, but also being recognized by our clients and having them willing to come and co-present with us at a venue like this is more important than the paycheck, right? So doing good work is really important. Now, we started with this platform. Now, we developed this simulation for a program at GE called the New Managers Program. New Managers Program in about 2004 and 2005. And it was a one-day session purely based on finance. And over the years, it had evolved. And some of the unique needs when we were talking to the folks at CA was, first, they said business acumen was really important. And so I came in and I thought, okay, I know exactly what we're going to do in this short time format. However, after having conversations with the subject matter experts, one of the critical needs that we came out with was this element of collaboration. And so we changed the design, and you'll see what the design looks like. We're going to give you a little taste of what the simulation is like. There's an emphasis on collaboration across the lines of business. Okay? And that's very important. And of course, giving everyone the enterprise view of the business, because if you're in the HR function, in the cloud business, you're sort of very focused on what's happening in the cloud business, and the license business and the service business is really secondary to you. So this helicopters people up to that enterprise, total corporation view of how we all work together to make money. We certainly were cost effective, and you know, I can talk to you guys independently about what the cost of some of this stuff is, but it's not as expensive as you might think to do the customization and do the delivery. Okay? We did talk, the pilot, it took about 3 months to get the work done. And I would tell you this with CA, because we changed the design and essentially built 3 simulations for them, we were working double overtime to try and get everything done, because it should have taken closer to a year to get done. I'd say if you talk to one of our clients, and Lynne, you can prove me right or wrong with this, I think if you talk to our clients, what they would say is, you're not the highest technology client, but you're the most supplier, but you're the most flexible supplier. Right? Which means that if Lynne comes in and says, hey, the last round in the simulation didn't really hit the mark, we'd like to change this, we're very welcome for that kind of input, and we'll make the adjustments on the fly. Is that fair?
That's fair.
That's fair. Okay? Okay, and then this concept of the incremental improvements as we deliver, because life isn't static. So when we made the simulation for them 3 years ago, they had certain strategies, they had certain key performance indicators. Now it needs to be adjusted because those things have changed. Now, here's the typical view of what one of these simulations look like. We do this in a day and a half at CA Technologies. Lynne, I'd really like 2 days.
No can do, Carlo.
I know. Time is always the most difficult thing. So normally there's some sort of teach piece around basic financial concepts. And what's always very frightening to me is mid-level and up in organizations, the level of business acumen that people should have is weaker than it should be, right? And so We try to start out the simulation with that. In residence, there's typically a simulation introduction that talks about the flow and the process and what happens during the simulation. And then there are the rounds of the simulation. In the CA technology simulation, we do 3 simulated rounds, each representing 1 calendar year. Okay? So in the first round, each team, and well, we'll wait for just a moment to hand out the envelopes, but each team gets 8 business initiatives that they could invest in. These might be things like, let's invest in a new product, or let's do something that engages our people better, or let's do something that impacts the cash flow of the business. So this is part of the customization, is to think about what are typical decisions at this kind of group level, and how can we link them together to the other groups so that there's some collaborative impact. So each team receives 8. And out of those 8, they have to pick 4. So they have about an hour and a half to 2 hours to pick 4 out of the 8. Sounds pretty simple, right? Sounds pretty simple. Well, it gets pretty complicated very quick, because in addition, we interrupt what's happening with the teams by these customized business challenges, and you'll see what some of those look like in a moment. These are the kind of soft skill things that end up in your inbox. Okay? We have bad processes. Customers are not happy about the customer service experience, would be examples, and we'll show you some of what some of those are. And what we do is we have 2 face-to-face role plays with a senior executive who gives the participant direct one-on-one feedback at the end. And they're looking really for 2 dimensions. Dimension number 1 is their leadership presence. So how engaged are they in the conversation? Are they giving us eye contact? Are they animated? Do they use the right language? And then the second dimension is, do they technically respond to the issue in a meaningful way? Right? So 2 face-to-face sessions with senior leaders. So these come in, they have 15 minutes to look at the challenge, and then the leader comes in and role plays with them for about 10 minutes with 5 minutes of feedback.
So
Yes, sir.
kind of a reality check?
It's sort of kind of a reality check. It's also testing the participants' abilities to think on the fly, right? And to deal with these softer issues, because the business initiatives are typically harder sort of decisions, right? Invest so much money, get so much return. So that's round 1. There's the team and leader feedback. There's also a debrief session at the end of the round with the class. And then we go into round 2. Now round 2, they receive another 8. Okay? But they have 4 left over from the first year, so now the decision set becomes more complicated, because I got to pick 4 out of 12. Same thing with the role play. We move into the to the final round. Final round, now they get an 8 new, but now they have 16 to choose from. Okay? And so if they don't have good processes along the way of recording what they thought about the initiatives along the way, this is good, we should put table, this is something that we need to make a decision later on. They spend a lot of time having to go back and look at things, right? So it's a rich discussion, yes?
It becomes more complex and difficult if you don't make the decisions when you should.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And one of the things about this particular simulation is there's collaborative impacts. So if you all don't make the same decision at the same time, you don't get the benefit of working together. Okay? So that's kind of an element. There's, at the end of the simulation, a private peer feedback session where each team member gives and receives feedback to each other member of the team in a private format. So no faculty is observing that. It's just quiet time where each and every person gives the feedback, and Jerry's our expert on describing how that process works for the teams. And so now let's pass out the packets, Jerry. So let's play around, and maybe not so much play around, but certainly pardon me? I have a slide for it. What you're going to receive right now is a typical packet that we use in a program. Now, I've been in the business since 1999, and I feel like one of my greatest contributions to the business was using FedEx packets. And the story goes, we were at GE one day and they didn't have the folders that they normally have. And so everybody's worried about where are we going to get folders? We better go down to the Staples to get some folders. And I said, well, why don't we use FedEx packets? Not only are they useful, but it also gives us convey that we're giving you important information very fast. Now, I'm not sure FedEx really likes us using their packets that way, but
So you're gonna go through what's in the packet?
we are going to go through what's in the packet.
Yeah, give that to him, and then I'll.
Okay? Now, in each company at the CA simulation, there are 3 groups that Lynn spoke about. There's a license group, a cloud group, and a services group, mirroring their 3 groups in their business. Okay? In the book, you'll have a page that we call the case reading. It's stapled together. It has a CA logo on the front, and I'll show you a little picture of that just in a moment.
And there's 2 copies of that in there.
There should be 2 copies of that in your envelope. There are the financials and the scorecard for the overall corporation. Okay? And those should be a couple copies of that. There's group financials, and you get to only see the financials of your group. So if you're licensed, you only get to see the license numbers unless you go over to the cloud group and ask for theirs. Okay? Each company has their own unique starting position in terms of the financials. Okay? You also receive the 8 business initiatives. Those are the ones with the blue bar across the top. They'll say business initiatives on the top. And then the checklist. And this is what the teams fill out at the end of the round. These are the 4 that I've chosen. Okay? Now, I think I have a slide here. Here's the FedEx packet. Here's what the case overview looks like. Here's the business simulation case overview. The corporate financials, and the corporate financials have 4 pages. The financials and the business scorecard, a variance analysis, which because we're focused on the finance and the business acumen, variance analysis is important. A detailed P&L and balance sheet for the corporation, and then the contribution of the 3 business groups to the overall pie in terms of revenues, operating income, and cash. Okay. All right, so there's that. There's also a packet of 3 financials, and they'll have the name of the group up at the top, so they might say license, group, or services, and you'll see that there is the financials and the scorecard for the group. You see the variance analysis and the P&L. Now, I would say at CA Technologies, the pages that the teams use the most are the first 2. Okay? We don't really have time to go into much detail on the P&L, but if teams want to look at that information, it's certainly there. We have the 8 business initiatives. Okay? And the important thing about the business initiatives is there's a little gray box on each of the initiatives. That's where the financials are recorded in the system. So you need to spend $2 million in marketing. We're going to get $15 million of increased revenue over the next time period. Okay? So you'll have 8 of those to look at. And then finally the checklist. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to let you guys absorb that and start looking through the materials. And then we'll see if there are any questions about how you should work. Now, remember that collaboration is an element of this program. So what does that mean? And I would tell you, when we've run the programs at CA, we've had all 3 teams come together and try to make all the decisions synchronously, which is not ideal, right? We've also had teams, and in that first session, the first production session that we went to, there was a group where each of the teams said, I don't want to talk to you. Okay?
Stay in your corner.
Or stay in your corner. So you guys look at the material, think about how you would work the simulation, and then we'll come back. Yes?
Are we supposed to have those pie charts in this packet?
They should be in that packet.
Okay, because they're not. What's that in there?
Look at the one that says corporate at the top.
Yeah, last page of corporate.
Yeah,
last page of corporate.
Last page of the corporate. There you go. Okay, so let's take a few minutes and you guys look over the materials and our team will help answer any questions you might have. Yes.
I just was mentioning to Carlo that the look on everyone's faces when you got all of the materials, and the look is the same when we hand these materials out year one to the participants. It's like total confusion, chaos, what do I do? But I will say, at the end of the simulation, the questions that the participants are asking it's clear that they are getting what business acumen is. They're asking questions at a different level than they did when they first got there. So I can tell you that even though you might feel a little confused and it might seem chaotic right now, by the end of the day and a half, it really all comes together for the participants.
Gentlemen, a case study is typically given to them pre-course, but it's only 11 pages long. So what we find is 60% probably don't read it until they arrive. So we keep it kind of short, but it is very much aligned with the history of CA technologies, even though it's a different product, it's a different kind of company.
Some
we keep the economics.
Some of them are better leadership capabilities than others. So they had some had farther to go than others. So at the end of each one of these leadership challenges, as Carlo said, we get scored, and we will score them, myself, Jerry, and Sarah, and everything. And sometimes, and a lot of times, they would not. It wasn't a team decision. There'd be other people going off doing other things, even doing emails or making phone calls during the leadership challenge, and they got scored down. So some of them didn't meet the minimum standard when they got all that. And they were severely my senior managers because of that. Yeah. I mean, they.
If it's a marketing intervention.
Well, the two separate things that both very much emphasize that this is a team. Everybody participates on the team. You don't leave it to the few because if you leave it to the few, you're not learning, you're not part of the team, and it's going to cost you. Personally, team. That's what you sound. They would do, well, they'd have 3 teams, and they'd be like, let's say, 8 people on the team. So they would do like 25 to 30. No, I'm sorry. That would be. But then sometimes they would have what we call two worlds. Like you have one set of 3, which is corporate structure, and then you'd have another set of 3. So that's why sometimes there'd be 6 of us in the control room. We each had like Jerry and I would do one for Sarah and somebody else.
Now, did you see? I mean, did they come up with a good consensus?
We got the chance. We got the while I guess the teams generally pick out the answers, but then sometimes, you know, they drive certain things with what they know, you know, what they think is important. They ignore the strategy because they do get graded on their own performance. They're more interested sometimes typically no matter where they go. You know, your own performance first, not while they can do it.
Okay, I know what, yeah.
Sure, that's
Okay, my friends.
If someone you're talking about something.
I think you've probably had enough time to look at that and think about some things. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask based
upon what it is before I kind of continue on at least what I think is important to discuss. I know you have a question.
You want me to repeat?
Yeah, I want you to repeat your question.
The question was really about the cohort of learners or the group at the table. Is it best to have them from different business units when they come together and cross-function so that they're not within their safe zones?
Yeah, so we like to keep people out of their comfort zone. So we like to put them in a different division. We like to have a good mix of different functions represented. So finance, HR, operations, R&D, because the cross-functional nature of it makes it a richer experience. One of the things that we're going to do, right, Lynn?
Yes.
Is we talked about this. We talked this about 2 weeks ago. The initiatives that we've written now really weren't necessarily by function. And so what we want to do is we want to program them by function, so each function is represented during each round. And the goal of that is that when you receive the memo for your function, just like in the real world, you have to advocate for your position, right? I'm HR, and we need this money for a new system, and we should do this, and here's the reason why we should do it. But also then be able to negotiate with the rest of the functions of, well, is this the imperative that we need to achieve the results, or do we need to table this for another time, right? Because that's the real world. Companies don't have unlimited resources to go after everything. And so this ability to negotiate, the ability to keep everybody engaged as well, okay? Some of the programs we run at CA 90,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big one.
that was a big one, okay? So 90, that's 15 teams, okay? It's 5 of our faculty members hosting all those teams. So you want to keep everybody engaged, not looking at their mobile phone, not checking their email and all that kind of stuff. So you know, putting in a little bit of structure. Yes?
Also the initiatives.
Yes.
So there are many different combinations, right? Because you have the 16 kids. So how do you organize the post-mortem?
It's all programmatically done in the simulation. So
So if you chose license on your 8 that you had to choose from, license number 1, the post-mortem at the bottom here says license, it says L1P for post-mortem. If you chose that one. If you chose number 2, then it's...
there's something like 6 billion possible combinations of collaboration, not collaboration, order, you know, numerical order. It becomes very complicated very quickly.
Does that mean that the post-mortem, sort of the outcome or the impact is influenced by decisions the other teams made?
It can be within your company. Okay, so if you collaborate, the outcome might be better. Okay, but not a different company. So when we're running the simulation with lots of cohorts, we have 5 companies running at the same time. It's really a great experience because then you can kind of compare and contrast how teams made decisions. Did they collaborate? Did they not collaborate? Did they not collaborate early but then collaborate late? So there's a rich discussion at the end in terms of the business performance. Right? Now ultimately, the teams are marching towards the key performance indicators, okay? And if you looked in the case reading, that Staples booklet, the last 2 pages have the corporate goals. So grow revenues by 20 to 24%. Sound familiar, Lynn? Expand operating margin by 1 to 3% and increase the cash balance 500 to 700 million. Okay? So that drives the financials. And then on the KPIs, 3 out of the 5 KPIs have to be green, and no KPIs can remain red. So you can't just pick all the ones that ideally give you the best financial performance. You have to have a mix of the soft results and the hard results. And each initiative drives some financial and some KPI. And some KPI. In some situations, it might drive the financials negative to get a good KPI. So the trade-offs that you have to make. Now, in terms of debriefs, because we think debriefing is important, of course there's role-play debriefs after the end of each of the debriefs with the executive, right? There's team debriefs where the team at the end of the round might prepare something, might have a conversation around how they did, what they need to adjust as they go into the next round in terms of organization. And then there's the company debriefs and the comparison. So at the end of each round, we normally show here's where all the teams are after year 1. Okay, so people can see kind of the performance. And then of course at the end, we do the comparison on the scorecard. Okay. There are many ways to skin the cat. Is that the right analogy? Skin the cat? Yes.
At the end of each round, when each team has made its decisions, do they enter that information onto the platform and then that tabulates?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question. Our faculty enters it into the platform.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And, you know, there are I guess, a number of trade-offs. Okay? And I bring my age and I bring my biases to what I'm going to say. Technology in the classroom can be a distraction.
Yes.
So typically how we deploy this is with the paper like you see, and then they submit and write things down, and we record things manually, and then we rekey it into the system. Now we are looking to move this to the cloud. But that presents all sorts of challenges. Number one, we don't have somebody in our company today who has that capability, and I've been looking for a year for the right fit, so if you guys know any good coders that could help us, that would be great, okay? Second thing, and we could steal somebody from CA Technologies. We've stolen people from all sorts of companies, right? Barter, okay? So getting to that, we don't have necessarily the same flexibility. So if Lynne comes to us and says, hey, we don't like the way this is going, once it's in the cloud, it becomes much harder to do that on the fly. So this is easier for us to deploy, it's easier for us to customize, and ultimately, it, I think, is very effective with just the paper. Now, at CA, we also give the information to them on a flash drive, so they have it electronically as well. But we've not moved to a cloud solution. Some clients have said, we don't want it. Some said, it would be nice, but it's not necessary. Nobody said, so far, you have to have it.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point about technology being a distraction, because I've used 2 different kinds of simulations, one very heavily technology and one none at all. And there's just more communication when there isn't technology that people are focusing on.
Yeah. You know, so that's personally my bias, because I know that if I was playing the simulation, oh, I got the little email reminder. I better go check my email, because that's more important than what I'm doing right now, right? So there are some downsides, there are some upsides. Scale for us, you know, we're a small company. If we put it to the cloud, we probably could scale, right? But again, and I think if you ask the guys on my team, we're less incented by the paycheck and more incented by connecting with people, right? That's ultimately is the most important thing. And so I expect you all to connect with me on LinkedIn, because I have a contest with my business partner on who has the most LinkedIn connections. Okay? And then finally, there's the team feedback, which is a private session with the team that we talked about. Guys, can we hand out the, because you should see what the role plays kind of look like.
We've already put them in groups.
The role plays? You already put the role plays on?
No, we put them in groups.
Oh, you put them in groups, yeah, so you could hand those out.
Leadership challenges. There's a couple there.
The interruption.
The interruption.
Okay.
Yes, I think we have plenty of patterns.
No, it's different. No, all three different things.
Now, teams, what you're seeing in these are the summary of the role play. So the first page is what gets handed to the team, and they have 15 minutes to think about it and react to it and select one member of their team to do the role play. Now, the original design is for each person to do one face-to-face role play with an executive. In the large cohorts, that's very hard to do. Got to find a lot of executives, and then it's time. So what we do with those is we collapse it to 2 people can do the role play together. Now, advantage is that you get 2 brains working on the topic. Disadvantage is that you have one person who's talking a lot and one person who's going, that's right, exactly, I totally agree. Right? So there's a little bit of challenge with that, but ultimately it's getting people to think creatively about these issues that are not necessarily financial or technical, right? Complex approval processes, the ability to collaborate effectively within the organization. What was the third one, Jerry?
Sorry, collaboration?
I wasn't listening.
What was the third? I gave out 3.
Sorry, we were talking about, our table was talking.
No, collaboration, complex approval process, and the customer support one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's interesting with this, and I'll ask Lynne to comment, there are a couple things around this. These are real-world kind of challenges that CA technology faces, right? Every company kind of faces these complicated processes and collaboration issues. In some of the role plays, you hear back what they're already doing. So it's not very creative. We tend to grade those a little bit lower. But actually, in some of them, they come up with creative ideas, and we've been trying to figure out a way to capture that, right? Because those could be projects that teams in the real world could use to implement to move the capability forward. We haven't figured out that yet. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, this is the challenge sometimes of having things that are too close, too much like CA technologies. Yes,
So
Martha?
to follow up on that, who determines, or do you have CA people like Lynne who can listen in and say, oh wait, we're already doing that? Like, how do you make that determination?
Yeah, the individuals who are doing the role play kind of have a sense of what this is like. Okay. The other thing that I didn't tell you in terms of these role plays is we have a pool of about 11 or 12 that they can pick from. So we only have slots for 6. So at the beginning of the program, the faculty all gets together and says, well, these are the ones that we think we should deploy with this audience. We've also had a little bit of challenge, and we've talked about this, I can't remember what we were thinking about, how to solve this, but with a limited pool, people talk. So if you give the license team collaboration this round and you give it to cloud the next round, you've already fed them the information that, hey, here's how you have to answer the question. Yes?
So is it true collaboration, they fed it to them or they sold it to them?
We hope that they...
It's really interesting how the leadership challenges go, because this was one thing that that we got challenged with. You know, we want them to collaborate on the business initiatives, and then all of a sudden, when it came to handing out the leadership challenges, what started to happen was all the divisions would meet in the center of the room and say, okay, here's our leadership challenge. Now what are we all going to do about it? So we had to figure out, you know, how do we make it a unique experience for each person in each of the rounds to have a leadership challenge. So we were able to solve that problem. We made sure that we strategically handed out specific leadership challenges to different divisions so that no one was able to share, you know, what they did. And to your point, Carlo, you know, we have a lot to pick from, so we don't have to use the same 3 for every group. We can use 3 here, maybe in a different world we'll use these 3, maybe in a different world we'll use these 3. So we try to mix it up a little bit so that they don't cheat. And you know, as far as the people doing the role plays, if it's something that we're already doing at our company, we used internal people to conduct those role plays. So if it was something that was already happening, I mean, we would be sitting there acting as the executive saying, yeah, that's great, but we're already doing that, so what else do you have? So, you know, I mean, we call them out on it.
Thank you.
Just one other comment about the role plays. When I do the role plays, which sometimes the faculty does get involved in them, I really ask them for 3 things. Okay, what's your 90-day plan? How many resources, you know, are you going to need? What kind of money? What kind of people are you going to need? And number 3 is, how do we know that we are successful? Okay, and you ask them those 3 questions. They probably haven't thought of it in those terms, but you know that's how they should be thinking about things, right? So ultimately, that's kind of what the simulation is like. That's really all I have for you, other than if you have some questions about the simulation. Now, I know we have a virtual audience, so if you guys want to get the materials, I'm more than happy to help post the materials up in a place where the virtual groups can kind of see it. I won't use your stuff, Lynn, but I've got some other versions that are generic that we can use. And yes?
I have a question. Are you doing this in higher education or just in corporations?
Great question. Great question. Higher education, not yet, but I would say 6 months. We're very close on some conversations on it. The great part about it is it's short duration, right? It's short duration. It's very easy to administer as a faculty member. Oh no, it's very hard to administer as a faculty member. Jerry.
Carlo, you're using, I'll refer to it as RMH. You know, I mean, Tom uses that in his graduate program.
Yeah.
Does he not? So the answer is, to me, yes, for that question.
Well, but not this style, right?
No, it's a different style.
It's a different style.
Yeah.
So what we're doing in academia today, we run virtual versions of our competitive play simulations that are very detailed. How many units are you going to build? What's the price? There's live role play with our faculty, like Steve was talking about. And then we also have these interventions that come in on opportunities to invest or problems that you have to deal with. We're running those at Fordham. We're running those at Purdue. We're running them at Fairfield University, where my business partner works, which happens to be our testing ground. So we do a lot of testing with his students because he has complete control. University of Miami. Where else? Fordham. Fairfield. Sarah does a lot of the university work, and I did the programs at Purdue. And they'll typically, we did run programs at the Jack Welch Management University because of our close connection with GE. But I would tell you it did not work very well there because it's a online program and people want to work at their own pace. They don't want to do team synchronous kinds of activities. So the simulations that we're running at Fordham, University of Miami, and Fairfield right now, we have a total cloud solution where all the role play is done via video and not live, so at their own pace. You're not necessarily Most of them are not necessarily competing with other teams, so you're competing against the computer. And there's all sorts of kind of regular academic rubric around it. So papers that you have to do, analysis that you have to provide, and that gets graded.
So,
Yes, sir.
are you working on an asynchronous version of the simulation?
Well, when we do the asynchronous version, we, particularly at a place like Purdue, where it's in their executive MBA program, we just deliver the simulation as we would in residence, but using
adapt what you have.
You adapt what we have.
Oh.
Yes.
Thank you.
The competitive place simulations take somewhere between 3 and 6 years, given all the elements, right, the role play and all that, to really stabilize. So we have about 6 platforms that we use with corporates on the collaboration side. These kinds of sims, we have about 12 different versions right now, and that pool expands every time we bring a new client on. We have versions of this that are focused on safety. So we did some work for an aluminum company that had significant safety issues, several fatalities a year, so that's a very unhappy thing. We run it at GE and with a compliance bent to it, so lots of different things. How are we doing for time, Steve?
I think we're there.
We're there?
Yes,
sir.
I'd like to mention one thing.
Yes.
So I had the pleasure of spending 2 hours with Carlo on Saturday, and I know a lot of people in the room are consultants, so please think about, depending on who you're dealing with, about taking some of your content and integrating with their sims to make it richer, especially at the mid and senior levels. So just get your wheels turning in that way.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, like our leadership development program is for the middle of the organization. This is not for executives, so mid-level.
Anything else? I'm going to hand it over to the lovely and talented Steve Gardner, my good personal friend. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Carlo, and thank you very much, Lynne, for coming all the way up here to share your experience. One of the things that we chatted about at our table is a lot of us obviously are in the talent development space. We've been grown up in management training and education. If you've never had a chance to participate in one of these simulations, if by hook or by crook you can get yourself into one of these, we highly encourage it because you really get the real feel for what your internal and external clients are going through. It is a great learning experience, and I would double what our colleague David Gilman said. Find ways to talk to these simulation people, see how you can augment what they're doing and complement what they're doing. So once again, yes?
One of the things Tri always does for people who are interested, they have a lot of schedules, different places, and they would invite you to come and observe as a guest.
Once again, big hand, thank you both.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This type of thing makes a huge amount of difference because it gets people in 2 places. One is they all think they're fabulous, and then they're confronted with their data. And the second is they all want to be loved, and then they're confronted with their data. So it gets them in a way that separates them in a very important place, both their heart and their pocketbook. And it gets into the brain and they begin to change their behavior. So it's very important. So I want to thank you for tonight. One of the traditions of our chapter, as virtually everybody here knows, is that we have a drawing at the end of the meeting for a free chapter meeting. So if you've gotten your card in the bin, great. If you don't have your card in the bin, please drop one in, and then you have a shot. You got to be in it to win it. April 18th, we will focus on teams, and we'll talk about working together, and we'll talk about resilience, and we'll talk with Matt McFadden about how he drives that and how he trains that and how he builds that into people. So that's very important.
We're all going to chip in and get a trip to the North Pole for Ross with Matt.
So that's their idea of succession. They're going to put me on ice. So please do the evaluations because we look at those very carefully in terms of feedback to us. And Janet Zasto-Bellardi. Actually, I gotta give this here. So thank you very much. Thank you to Discover Video. Thank you to our audience who, when we were in the middle of the simulation, was not as exciting because you had no materials. If you were here, you would have had a much better time. So thank you. And thank you to our presenters. And have safe travels home. Bye-bye.